Ho, 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 good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Storytime by Santa. Sit back, relax, and enjoy these wonderful stories that Santa is going to read to you, your family members, and your children. I hope you have a wonderful time, and if you like, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Santa loves you. Ho, ho, ho. Enjoy. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of Storytime by Santa. Tonight's story, first of the two stories, Mrs. Claus Cookie Adventure. Gather around, children, and let Santa tell you a special story about a very merry adventure right here at the North Pole. This is the tale of Mrs. Claus Cookie Adventure. Once upon a time, in the cozy kitchen of the North Pole, Mrs. Claus was busy baking her famous Christmas cookies. The aroma of the gingerbread, chocolate chip, and sugar cookies filled the air, making all the elves' mouths water. These weren't just any cookies. They were the magical treats that brought Christmas cheer to all. Mrs. Claus hummed a merry tune as she mixed the dough, rolled it out, and cut out shapes of reindeer, stars, and snowflakes. She was getting ready for the big Christmas Eve celebration where Santa would deliver presents and the elves would enjoy a grand feast. But just as Mrs. Claus was about to put the last batch in the oven, she realized she was out of a crucial ingredient, the special North Pole spice, a secret blend that made her cookies extra magical. Without it, the cookies wouldn't have that special Christmas touch. "Oh dear," Mrs. Claus said, looking at the empty jar. "I must find more North Pole spice before the celebration tonight." Without a moment to lose, Mrs. Claus put on her warmest coat, her red boots, and her cozy hat. She knew the only place to find the North Pole spice was deep in the enchanted forest, a magical place where the ingredients for Christmas magic grew. Mrs. Claus set off throughout the snowy landscape, her path lit by the twinkling northern lights. She passed by the toy workshop where the elves waved and cheered her on. She waved back, her heart filled with determination. As she entered the enchanted forest, the trees seemed to shimmer with their own light, and the air was filled with sounds of gentle bells. Mrs. Claus knew she had to find her friend, Twinkle the Snow Fairy, who guarded the North Pole spice. "Twinkle," Mrs. Claus called out, "I need your help." In a flash of sparkling light, Twinkle appeared, her wings fluttering like a hummingbird. "Hello, Mrs. Claus. What brings you to the enchanted forest?" "I need more North Pole spice for my cookies," Mrs. Claus explained. "The celebration wouldn't be the same without them." Twinkle nodded. "I understand. Follow me," she says. Twinkle led Mrs. Claus deeper into the forest, past the glittering icicles and over the sparkling streams. Finally, they arrived at the clearing where a large, shimmering tree stood. At the base of the tree grew the North Pole spice, glowing with a magical light. Mrs. Claus carefully picked some of the spice, placing it in a small pouch. "Thank you, Twinkle. You've saved Christmas." Twinkle smiled. "It's always a pleasure to help." "Safe travels, Mrs. Claus." With the North Pole spice in hand, Mrs. Claus turned back through the forest and across the snowy plains, where, when she arrived home, the elves were already gathering for the celebration. "Mrs. Claus is back!" they cheered. "Yes!" She rushed into the kitchen and added the special spice to their cookie dough. Soon the cookies were baking in the oven, filling the kitchen with magical aroma of Christmas. When they were done, Mrs. Claus brought out trays of cookies for everyone to enjoy. Santa Claus himself took a bite and his eyes twinkled with delight. "These are the best cookies yet, my dear." The elves agreed, their face lighting up with joy as they munched on the delicious treats. The North Pole was filled with laughter, music, and the wonderful feeling of Christmas magic. And so, thanks to Mrs. Claus's Cookie Adventure, Christmas Eve celebration was a grand success. Everyone in the North Pole enjoyed the magical cookies, and the holiday spirit was brighter than ever. As the night drew to a close, Mrs. Claus looked around at the happy faces and smiled, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." And that, dear children, is the story of how Mrs. Claus saved Christmas with her special cookies. Remember, sometimes a little adventure and a lot of love can make all the difference. Santa loves sharing stories and bring joy and magic to Christmas. I hope you enjoyed Mrs. Claus's Cookie Adventure. Merry Christmas. Are you ready for another story? Wasn't that exciting? Wasn't that amazing? Santa's Secret Sleigh. Ho, 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 ho! Gather around, little ones, and let Santa tell you a magical story about a very special sleigh. This is the tale of Santa's Secret Sleigh. Once upon a time, in the bustling North Pole, the elves were hard at work preparing for Christmas. They were building toys, wrapping presents, and singing merry songs. But there was one thing that they didn't know. Santa had a secret. Deep in the heart of Santa's workshop, hidden behind a large red curtain, was a very special sleigh. This wasn't just any sleigh. It was Santa's secret sleigh. Unlike his regular sleigh, which you all know so well, this sleigh had extraordinary powers. It could fly faster than the speed of light, become invisible, and even travel through time. Santa had built this sleigh many years ago with the help of the wisest and most skilled elves. They used the rarest materials and infused it with the purest Christmas magic, but Santa only used it for very special occasions, missions that required a touch of extra magic. This year, there was a little boy named Timmy who lived in a small town far away. Timmy had written a heartfelt letter to Santa, asking for something very special. He didn't ask for toys or games. Instead, he asked for help for his grandmother, who was very ill. Timmy believed in the magic of Christmas and hoped Santa could bring some joy and healing to his grandmother. When Santa read Timmy's letter, he knew this was a mission for his secret sleigh. He wanted to make sure that Timmy's wish came true in the most magical way possible. On Christmas Eve, after delivering presents to children around the world in his regular sleigh, Santa returned to the North Pole. The elves were busy celebrating, but Santa had one more task to complete. He quietly went to the hidden part of the workshop and pulled back the red curtain. There it was, gleaming with magic, Santa's secret sleigh. Santa climbed into the sleigh with his heart full of determination. With a whisper of a spell, the sleigh lifted into the air. Faster and quieter than a snowflake, it shimmered and vanished, becoming invisible to everyone except Santa. In the blink of an eye, Santa arrived at Timmy's town. He landed softly on the roof of Timmy's house and made his way down the chimney. There he found Timmy's letter carefully placed by the fireplace. Santa smiled and left a note for Timmy, telling him that he was about to make his wish come true. Santa then went to Timmy's grandmother's house. Yes, he went to Grandma's house. She was sleeping soundly, but Santa could sense her pain. He reached into his magical sack and pulled out a glowing star. Filled with the purest Christmas magic, Santa placed the star gently beside her bed and whispered a blessing. The star glowed brighter and brighter, filling the room with warm, healing light. Timmy's grandmother stirred and opened her eyes. She felt a warmth and comfort she hadn't felt in a long time. Santa smiled, knowing the magic was working. Before leaving, Santa left a special note for Timmy's grandmother, explaining that the magic of Christmas had come to help her heal, and that she was loved by her family and by Santa himself. With his mission complete, Santa climbed back into the secret sleigh and flew back to the North Pole. The sleigh landed softly, and Santa carefully put it back behind the red curtain, ready for the next special mission. The next morning, Timmy woke up to find a letter from Santa. He rushed to his grandmother's house to find her sitting up, smiling and full of life. Timmy hugged her tightly, tears of joy in his eye. He knew that the magic of Christmas had made his wish come true. And so, thanks to Santa's secret sleigh, Timmy and his family had the most magical Christmas ever. They learned that the true spirit of Christmas is not just about gifts, but about love, kindness, and the magic that brings us all together. Ho, ho, ho! And that, dear children, is the story of Santa's secret sleigh. Remember, the magic of Christmas is all around us, especially when we believe in the power of love and kindness. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Remember, Santa loves sharing magical stories with all of you. I hope you enjoyed Santa's secret sleigh. Merry Christmas. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope it was amazing for you as it was me. Santa loves you. Ho, 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 ho!